Hello, wine drinking people. Today is Tuesday, the 15th of May, now for another edition of Killer Wines. That's right, we're bringing the Killer Wine edition back. You know, when great producers stop in the store, it really inspires me to get work done quicker. And Andrea Franchetti was in the store yesterday, the owner of Tenuta di Trinoro in Tuscany, as well as Passopisciaro, a new property in Mount Etna, which I'm very excited because we're going to be visiting this summer on our cruise on the Silver Seas when we stop in Sicily. So, you know, we have to stop everything that's going on to review wines when they are of this magnitude. And I have to say, after trying the entry-level wine from this property down in Mount Etna, I was just blown away last summer, and I ordered everything, all the single vineyard contradas that they had available, and said when they come in, just send them in. So we have these wines in the store already when Andre arrived yesterday, so I was really excited to see he had them all open so we could try them, as well as all the wines from Tenuta di Trinoro, one of the cult wines of Tuscany. Well, you know, I have to say, you know, to have the man here, the mind behind these wines, someone that has been called, you know, a genius by Robert Parker Jr., that is considered to be one of the top minds in winemaking in Italy today, was a real pleasure. And, you know, I told Andrea, the next time you come, we've got to do an event here in the back room at the Wine Watch. We already have the wines, and it would be nice to have the man himself explain these wines to our wine drinking people, because that is all it is going to take. These wines will be on fire. Well, sorry, there's only 2,500 bottles of each of the single vineyard wines produced, but he does make some other wines, so he does have a few things to sell. It's not like we don't have any wine to sell. We've got just a few bottles of all these wines in stock, but they are so good, killer, that they are worthy of note, and we need to bring them to your attention. The property was completely abandoned that he purchased here in 2000, I think 2001, and, you know, he had to cut the bushes with a chainsaw. There was a lot of the people who looked at him and the work that he had to do and said, man, you are crazy. But, you know, he saw the potential of this region, and there's 60 producers where he's at now on Mount Etna. So it's not like they didn't make wine there before, but there was nobody of note until 10 years ago. This is one of the newest and most exciting regions in all of Italy. So I'm really excited, like I said, to be visiting this property in September. And hey, we've got one cabin left. If anybody's interested in coming along, check out our website. Just click on the boat there or call Nancy at this number here. All right, well, Tuscany, as I mentioned before, is where Andre got started. Well, actually, he got started in the wine business as a wholesaler in New York, and well, he found out very quickly he wasn't cut out to sell wine at, you know, the wholesale, so he decided to go, well, he purchased the property before he went to New York in 1981, and came back in 1990, I guess, started to plant the property, and some amazing wines. He's gotten incredible reviews from Robert Parker and Antonio Galloni now also, and you know, this is the work of someone that is possessed in making the best possible wine. And, you know, when he mentioned to me his last U.S. importer got mad when he raised the price to a certain level, you know, he said he just dropped the, you know, his U.S. importer. And I agree, you know, you should get pretty much whatever you can for a product. When you make the best wine in its category, hey, it's whatever the market will bear. So, you know, more power to you, Andrea, for raising the price to where, you know, the wine still sells out every year. It's not too expensive. And like I said, there is not a lot of any of these wines around it. Hey, I was more excited about his wines from Mount Etna than I was from his Tuscan property, which much, much more expensive, the wines in Tuscany. And I would say not quite as unique. You know, they're Merlot, Cabernet, and Cabernet Franc-based wines at Tenuta di Trinoro. This Nerello Mascalese, this is the only place in Italy where they make this varietal, to my knowledge, at this high level. And it took him a little while to figure it out. It wasn't like, you know, he just went down there and started making exceptional wines. He said, you know, first I didn't know what I was doing. So, you know, I put a little Merlot from Tuscany in with this varietal because I didn't like the way it tasted at first. And he realized, you know, the era of his ways. And by 2003, he had figured out the vineyard sites, and he said the people just incredible to deal with. What he got accomplished in just a few years down in Mount Etna, it took him a decade to do in Tuscany. So he's very excited about this this new winery down here, as am I. And I like grapes like this that speak volumes about the place where they come from and are just unique. I couldn't compare this to any other varietal that I know. It definitely is the place where it comes from. He's leading the way in this area in these Contrada concept, which is single cru. And since there weren't any serious producers down here, it didn't take him long to convince the people of the differences between these different vineyard sites. And they are dramatically different based on the 500 different feet of elevation they go up. The side of the mountain and based on the various soil types here. So the first wine that we had, Guardiola, this name refers to the crew, as to all these names on the bottles, which are hard to pronounce, but hey, when you've just got a few hundred cases, not that hard to sell hard to pronounce wines. The higher Contrada are usually considered the better wines, and unfortunately, his area lies above the DOC appellation, so it doesn't say Mount Etna on it. It just says Sicily IGT, and it doesn't matter what you call these wines. The proof is in the bottle here. So very distinct minerality on the nose to all these wines. The volcanic soils really showing through, and the Chardonnay, which is what this first wine is, but it doesn't say Chardonnay anywhere in the bottle, and I would dare say, I would not pick it out as Chardonnay because the minerality is really what shows through this wine on the nose. Really interesting nose. Has a little bit of fruit, apple and pear, but a bit closed at first. But man, wow, the fruit just comes through on the palate. Lovely concentration and depth of flavors with firm acidity there, and wonderful distinction with that minerality still showing through at the end. That volcanic soil, really long and layered, creamy texture, and most excellent Chardonnay. Probably the best value in the whole bunch at $33. All right, 2010 was the vintage here. 2008 and 9 are the other vintage wines, and the 2008 Passopisciaro. This wine, $40 a bottle. Well, we have some at $34. I have to check the price on this. But 2001, as I mentioned, the first vintage produced. Nerello Mascalese is the varietal, and he used to add other varietals in, but as of 2003, 100% varietal. He achieved this by dropping fruit, by learning how to manage the grape properly in the vineyard, and really making stunning wines now without mixing anything in with it. No new oak used in these wines, only large oak casks, and a really distinct bouquet here. Wildflowers, a little hint of game, some red berry, cranberry fruits, hints of tar, kind of dried meats there. Really exotic, distinct bouquet, big but elegant wine on the palate with the essence of kind of Pinot Noir and that little bit of that wild game character of Mourvedre and fine tannins. They used to sell their wines to Burgundy, believe it or not, from this area when they had phylloxera in that part of the world. And just 10 years ago that this quality revolution has started on Mount Etna. Lovely balance and elegance to the wild nature of this wine. Excellent juice. The Contrada Rampante, this vineyard is at 1,000 meters high. The terroir is all sand and lava. The lava stopped here, and they created a plateau of sandy soils. And it's picked later because of the altitude, and these wines have wonderful freshness because of that bright red cherry, cranberry fruit, fresh flowers, light spice on the nose, really pretty. Not very much funk in this wine, but still a little bit of that animal showing there. Very fresh, bright red cherry and cranberry fruit on the tongue, and lovely rose petal kind of floral and spice notes showing on the finish. Excellent juice, the Rampante. The Contrada anyways, man, these wines are hard to pronounce. The Contradas Cippemazzine. Okay, lower Contrada, 500 meters in elevation. A nice breeze here. The name Cippe means buttocks. A bit warmer here, so you notice a bit more of the fruit. I don't know why I put that in there, but I always like to know what these names mean, and they're just ancient names that were given to these parts of these vineyard sites here. Red cherry and plum fruit. The lava is thinned out, and around the peripheries of the volcano, and the roots go down into the limestone here a little bit more, so you notice that minerality, wild herbs and flowers, and a bit of that game showing here as well. The wild flower and exotic spice coming through that fruit on the palate. Lovely richness and savoriness to the finish, some of that wild game, and firm tannin showing. Most excellent juice, this Contrada, the Cippemazzine. All right, and then the Contrada Scaronuovo, which is 800 feet high elevation with gravel and solid kind of rocks thrown into the soil there. Wet hay and a peppery, spicy notes on this wine. The name refers to the new lava. Sciaro means lava and Nuovo, new. All right, this wine has a lovely earthiness and that gamey note showing through it as well. Those dried flowers and herbs, cranberry, really exotic bouquet. This wine is huge on the palate and a lot of concentrated fruit there. Lovely silky tannins though, and a lovely nuance and floral notes to the finish, and just really long. This was my favorite wine of the whole grouping here, even the Trinoro wines. I thought it was just killer, this Contrada Scaronuovo. All right, the Porchiara, which is the name given, refers to pig farm, which I guess this was this portion of the vines were pig farms, and these this area was owned by the aristocracy, so it was just a huge estate in the old days. Red and black cherry fruit showing on the nose with pretty floral highlights and red licorice spice here. Very simply made at the winery. All these wines, they try to do as little as possible. He does refine them and he racks them. But other than that, you know, no new oak used, pure unadulterated Nerello Mascalese, and the differences in the terroir. Similar to what you find in Burgundy, I think the differences in these wines really nuanced, and they go through a quick fermentation as well. This wine, most excellent. The Porchiara has a lot of nuance, just like the other wines. A really lovely wine on the finish, really long and fine. And then there's the Franchetti, which is, these are the grapes that he planted himself in 2000. These other grapes were there that had 80-year-old vines, all the wines from Nerello Mascalese. This is 80% Petit Verdot that they pulled out of the Tenuta Tronoro property. The selections there. And then it's, 20% of Petit Verdot and 80% Cesanesi da File, which is a Roman varietal, and he planted it here. He found this varietal in Rome, and he planted it here because he thought it would do good here in the volcanic soils, and it's a late harvester. So, you know, really a long shot here, but an incredible wine. You know, this wine is just incredibly aromatic and very distinct as well. One of the things I love about these other wines from Mount Etna, and just really exotic as well. Lovely kind of black cherry, soy, brown spice, and really intense, rich and decadent on the tongue, smooth and velvety texture with big tannins, but round and ripe, and a really lovely liqueur-like fruit as well. Soy is Asian spice. Really big, but still fresh and elegant on the finish. Most excellent juice, the Franchetti wine. And then we had the Tenuta Tronoro stuff. I don't want to say this was kind of a downer for me, but man, after all these killer unique wines, to go back to wines made of Cabernet, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc, kind of a little boring. Well, you know, the wines are excellent. This is the estate that he started, you know, making wine in the southeast corner of Tuscany, bordering Lazio and Umbria, and a bowl-like valley, 600 meters above the sea level, and a blend of 35% Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot in this wine, and a bell peppery kind of note to the nose here, some dark spice, plum and cherry fruit showing, along with a little underbrush and kind of herb character. This is his Il Coupole, which is the entry-level wine from this property. Lovely spice and peppery quality to the finish here, that lovely red cherry and plum fruit showing, and good freshness here, some nice brown spice and pepper, an excellent bottle of wine. The Palazzi, which is the name of one of the houses on the property when he bought it in 1981. And then this wine's mostly Merlot with a bit of Cabernet Franc in it. And this wine has a beautiful nose of dark cherry liqueur, really ripe and seductive Asian spice, soy, really complex bouquet of aromas. This 2009 vintage is off the charts, man. It is just awesome in all of Europe and in Italy as well. Lovely liqueur-like fruit on the palate. Thick and chewy, but still has lovely elegance, lovely like silky texture to the tannins, and nice freshness on the finish. A big wine, most excellent juice. And then the Tronoro Rosso, which is the top wine or the most expensive wine made on this property. This is a selection of the best vines each year, a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc, what the vineyard is planted to, and lovely dark spices, soy, oriental notes, black cherry, kirsch-like fruit. Incredibly concentrated and dense on the palate. A bit forward and drinkable, this 2008 vintage. Not going to go down as a classic vintage in Tuscany, but one you want to drink on the earlier side. But this wine has incredible richness for a 2008. Lots of that dark spice from the nose showing through on the finish, but still has elegance and freshness on the end. You can drink this wine today, but it has the balance and structure still to last for decades. Most excellent juice. That's what I had to drink with Andrea Franchetti, the owner of Tenuta Tronoro and Passopisciaro. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.